We have two decisions. First one being case number 2830, Colin McCray III, 73 Meadow Lane.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No.
Okay. It's 4-1.
Copy of that, perhaps.
Yeah, you want a copy?
No.
Case number 2832, 320 Murray Place LLC, 320 Murray Place.
I move we accept this decision as proposed.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That takes us down to the pending cases, the first one being 2757, the Wickapog Pond Rehab Project. We don't have anybody here for that again? Yeah, but he's on vacation. Rick, shall we just hold that over again?
Yeah, I know Chick told us at the work session that
That they met with him, huh?
that he met with him, and Chick felt that the representative finally understands what we're looking for, but maybe he just didn't have an opportunity to put it all together yet.
Okay. So we'll adjourn that one for all purposes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2833, Leland and Jarrett Abrams, 107 Wickapog Road.
Good evening. Robert Conley, Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill, New York, 01976 for the applicants. At the conclusion of the last public hearing, you had asked that elevations be submitted, which were submitted prior to the work session.
Right.
Do we ask for anything else?
No, that's it.
Rick, that's all we asked for, right?
Let me just look at my
The
notes.
height is 30 feet, 6.5 inches.
Yeah, that was all we asked for, was the elevation plans, which I think we got at the work session. At least there
Yes,
was a copy
yeah.
in my packet.
We did.
Unless you have any questions on the elevation plans, or unless there's somebody out in the public to be heard, we can close it for decision.
Do we have anything from the board?
No.
Anybody out in the audience like to be heard of this application? Yes.
My name is Duran Flynn. I live at 145 Wickapog Road, which is a neighboring house. I brought with me tonight some photographs of the streetscape of the house, as that will be next to this house. And I also brought a copy of an existing house that the same builder is building on Cobb Road, which is further back than 60 feet. And I just would like the board to examine these, because when I was at the last meeting, I was concerned about the mass of the house on the property and the way the house looks in regards to the houses next to each other. And in order for them to build this particular house, they would need to get the zoning variance. I went to the ARB meeting, and the architect said their concern was that if the house was at the 80-foot setback, they might get shadows in the pool. So, and again, I just wanted to reiterate that the setback that they're looking for are with the older houses that are narrower and smaller in height than the new houses. And that the two new houses and the one house, I have a photograph there, is a house not yet to be built next door, are the required 80-foot setback from the main street. And that's it.
Right, but in memory serves that this lot is much less deep, right?
That's correct, but that's not really a reason for it to be overwhelming on the lot. It makes it more overwhelming that it's, the depth of the house has to be east to west and not the same as the other houses, which are south to north.
But those other lots are a lot deeper than this lot. You're talking about the lots just down there where the houses were built just recently, right?
Right, right.
Right, those are deeper lots.
So these are the neighboring houses, but they don't have, you don't tell us what the setbacks are on these.
There's the two on the left are the new houses. They're the required 80-foot setback. And the one on the right is an older house that is less than 80-foot setback.
Okay.
This is the house they want to build.
Right, which I have a picture of that house. It would take up the whole width of the property.
We're asking for side yard setbacks already.
Yeah, right.
Just on the total side yard from 48 to 48 from 54.
Now,
6
the
feet.
proposed house conforms with the minimum and total side yard requirements. The requirements are based on, per the zoning code, the side yard requirements are based on lot size. So they get the minimum and total side yard requirements for a lot having a lot area of less than 40,000 square feet. So they don't need the side yard variance.
They don't need the 48-foot variance.
No,
Right, this is
that
just for the
conforms.
front.
The variance they're asking for is to be 60 feet from Wickapog Road rather than 80 feet. The normal requirement for a lot of this size, per the zoning code, is 60 feet, so they're meeting that. But because they're in the R80 district, they need a variance to get from 80 to 60.
Okay. So it's only because that they're in that district.
Yes.
If this lot were in a R40 district, they would meet the setback.
They wouldn't need any variances.
Those are the setbacks for a lot having a lot area of less than 40,000 square feet.
Less than 40,000
Right.
square feet, okay.
I don't remember offhand what it is in R40. Want me to look? 40. Yeah, it's 60 feet for R40. So if they were in the R40 district, it would be 60 feet.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else in the audience like to hear of this application? Therefore, we'll hold it for decision.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Before you go on, let me just warn you that warn isn't the right word, but although we're adjourning it, the decision to our November 20 meeting, because that meeting is early, our work session is only 2 nights before the meeting, so we won't necessarily have time in that short time frame to do a decision, to actually do a decision at the November 20 meeting. We'll have to see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Brings us down to 2834 Victoria Fraser, 10 Leo's Lane.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Victoria Fraser. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm the owner of 10 Leo's Lane. We were originally scheduled for September because of the sign issue, got moved forward to October. I'm here to request, as you probably know,
Did you submit the affidavit of posting?
at the last meeting. As you know, I'm here to request relief on variance section 116.11.1, the setback. I believe you all have in front of you drawings as well as the survey, and then it includes the existing house as well as the proposed house. The proposal is to demolish the existing house, which is currently non-conforming. A couple things of note.
Could I interrupt just for a second? Do we have a survey of just the property as it exists?
I believe what you,
I do not in my packet. All I have is the architect's site plan
Yeah, I don't have it either.
showing the proposed house.
is the existing house not on there as well?
I don't have the affidavits either. You do the affidavits, Candace?
Just, I need the posting one, because you were gonna sign it, because we were gonna post it for the month, and then sign it, but we have the mailing from last month.
Oh,
That's the
well,
posting.
can I just double, let me just double check, sorry, I just arrived in Southampton.
Okay.
If I have it in my, I apologize. I didn't-
So she's tearing that house down
Gave the
completely.
mailing,
Wide
not the
slate.
posting, because the posting you couldn't sign.
I have, but I can't see anything.
Sign wasn't up.
Oh, this one is
Here
just
it is,
proposed.
sorry.
See, I see.
Sorry.
Driveway, you.
Want me to sign it?
Yeah, now it's pre-existing before they put, that's what I wanted to know. Is that what the driveway is now?
Got two front yards. This whole is real
Here,
weird.
they're not going any
They can't
different
take
than
it.
what's there now.
Do we have a survey, what's the amount?
No, you don't.
I don't believe in notaries myself.
Do we have the tickets?
That we got last month.
Huh?
Last month, which didn't get it notarized.
We usually have the stubs.
That we got last month. They're in the file. But
They're not in
she-
here.
We took that part, but we couldn't take the part that she signed because she couldn't sign it because it wasn't posted, remember?
Right,
But we did to get the green.
Yeah,
we got the
We
green.
took the
Yeah.
green, yeah.
Maybe they misfiled and one of
I'd
the
be
other.
under a ham sandwich in the building.
We did get it. Maybe it was misfiled.
Okay,
But that's not signed or notarized.
no. Hand this to Rick and ask him if it's,
well, I can certainly sign it.
I don't know if it has to be
Any
notarized.
notaries around? Notary, it's gotta be.
You a notary?
You haven't completed the affidavit of
Well,
post.
that's what I just said to her.
So you might as well take it back. You're saying you've posted it for the last 10 days?
It's been posted since the last meeting.
Okay. We can go ahead with the hearing based on her statement, but what you need to do is to complete that affidavit. Don't do it right now, because you're just taking up everybody else's
I
time.
agree, Your Honor.
Complete the affidavit and file it with the zoning board office promptly.
Is that at the building department?
Yes.
Okay. And they don't open till 9, is that correct?
right.
Well, there's a couple of, some days they're closed.
Tuesday, Wednesday,
11.
Thursday.
Yeah, oh, because they're out
We'll
in
be
the
open
field.
tomorrow at 9.
Okay, I sincerely apologize. We did not realize that it had to be notarized. Someone had asked a question.
Well, if we don't have the existing survey, I don't have it in my file packet,
No.
Yeah.
maybe you better make a note of some things we're gonna need.
Okay, well, is this going to satisfy you? Is this, I believe, has the existing house on it.
That's not a survey. We need an actual survey. your architect's site plan says that it was drawn based on the survey, a survey prepared by
Right,
the surveyor.
right.
So your architect must have the survey because he prepared the site plan based on, per the survey, but we don't have it.
Okay.
This is
You know,
2012.
maybe you need some professional help in, either from your architect or whatever, in pursuing this, but anyhow.
I did not realize that the existing was not already on that map.
Just
I
make
thought
a
they were
note-
overlaid on one another, and I apologize.
Make a note as to the things you're gonna need, because otherwise you're just gonna keep delaying this application.
Yes, I understand that, and just so you know, it's, for me, it's quite a long trip out here every time, which I know is not an issue for you all, but, so obviously, it's important, and I am respectful.
Okay. And when you provide it, you have to provide multiple copies.
I understand that. It was supposed to be in the original packets that were sent to you all 3 months ago.
Go ahead.
Are there any questions?
Well, can we tell her what she needs?
Well, like a question I have, if I knew what these, you're tearing it down, so you got a blank slate. And now you're building a new house, but you're asking for a variance, but you had a blank slate. We usually want to know, well, what can you do that would comply? In other words, your architect had free rein to design anything. Why did he have to design it and ask for this relief when you have basically an empty lot?
Yes, and I think if you could all look at your maps, you'll see that this is an unusual property. It has two front yard setbacks. It also has a cul-de-sac that is village property that goes to nowhere. It is a complete circle, and on the far end of it, there is just a grassy area, and then behind it is Terry Court, so that the street will never extend any further than it is. That cul-de-sac is circular. Nowhere else is there a circular cul-de-sac in the Roscoe area. There are two other dead ends in Roscoe, and they are both streets that are straight. They are not circular. And because of the circular nature, our setback, in addition to being a front yard setback, which is obviously twice as big as a side yard setback or more, we also then have the circle coming in. And we have to take our property lines, all of our zoning and all of our plans off of the circle. If that circle was straight, it would be a very, very different situation. You should also note that there's one property across the street, and they also were given a variance many years ago when they redid their house.
Okay.
The only thing we are
Let me interrupt
do-
and make another suggestion to you.
Yes.
Because it's something that an applicant or an applicant's representative would normally do. I do have a vague recollection that at some point within the last few years, we did grant some kind of a variance from the cul-de-sac, from this cul-de-sac for the property across from you.
Yes, you did. And in fact, a couple
But
of years
I don't-
ago, you granted us a variance for a different design of a house.
Okay, well, these are things that we only go by what's in front of us. So what you need to do is, with respect to the property across the street, I would suggest that you obtain from the...
We did provide that the last time, and I apologize. I assumed it would stay
Could I
with the
finish?
file.
Okay, otherwise this is going to go on for... You should provide us with a copy of the decision we rendered for that property and the map on which it was based, so that we can see how much of a variance we granted for that property. I don't know that it was anywhere near as much as you're asking, but I don't know. So I would suggest that you do that, get multiple copies of our decision on the property across the street and the map, so you can submit it with this as part of your application here, so we can have that picture. Otherwise, we don't know, we don't remember what we might have granted several years ago. And if there's something that we granted for this property a couple of years ago. If you think it helps your case, you should provide us with that information. We only have what you've submitted. And you haven't submitted enough information to enable us to make an intelligent decision on this. And that's your job. It's not our job.
I completely
You
agree.
or a representative.
Okay,
You could
that's
have your
fine.
architect do it. We could have somebody else do it if you're not out here at all. But, you know, to come to the meeting and arrive in Southampton 5 minutes before the meeting and not have anything with you
That's just the building.
doesn't help. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm trying to be helpful. You know,
Well,
on
because
its
the house
face-
is pre-existing and non-conforming, and actually the new house will be substantially less non-conforming.
We don't know that because
We
we
don't
don't have
know
your
that.
survey.
Okay. It
So
was
that-
in the
that's why
right,
it's
in the
important.
proposed
None
right
of
up
this
and
stuff
so.
that you know,
So really
do we
going
know.
outside.
And all we can do is look at what you presented, and it looks like you're asking for a somewhat substantial variance, and it looked like it could be designed to have a greater front yard setback than 16.6 feet. So, but, you know, without more information, you know, we can't evaluate. Because we don't know we don't even know what's there now.
So we need the survey of what's there now.
I understand.
We
sir.
need the decision we made on the property across the street.
You should have
Understand.
copies for everybody, too.
Building envelope on the survey?
It is on this
See it here,
plan.
And then I had one more question, other than that information to be provided. Your site plan, drawn by your architect, is showing a couple of cars parked, which are less than 10 feet from the cul-de-sac. I don't know if your architect put that on there just to depict something, or whether you're actually proposing parking spaces almost right on the cul-de-sac.
Well, our current driveway is
I mean,
just,
they're right in front of the garage, so it doesn't, maybe that's just something that your architect depicted that isn't part of your plan. But if it is part of your plan, you can't provide required off-street parking spaces within 10 feet of the street line without a variance.
and our current driveway is just slightly over 10 feet long. So the request included, all we're asking is that the garage is moved as part of the new structure, and the driveway will be longer, but that is the request for the variance. Driveway will actually be longer. Again, a lot of this is forced by the
Okay, if
the
you're
lot
not proposing
shape.
parking spaces where your site plan shows 2 cars, then you better have that taken off the site plan.
I'm not saying that. That is the parking. That is the parking that we're requesting.
Okay, you have not asked for a variance to have parking less than 10 feet from the property line, from the cul-de-sac line. You haven't asked for that. I don't know offhand what your required parking is. I don't know how many spaces are being provided in the garage. I don't know whether you need those there. These are things that we don't have answers to, but if you're asking for a variance to provide required parking spaces less than 10 feet from the cul-de-sac, you're going to need to amend your application, refile, repost, re-advertise, and ask for the variance, because you haven't asked for that.
What's all this?
Hmm?
What is this?
I guess that's proposed.
How many bedrooms do you have?
We're requesting 4 bedrooms.
Is that a 5 or a 3? It's a 3. Okay. You got 3 on the second floor, right?
Yes, and one on the first
And
floor.
one on the first floor.
Yes, sir.
Labeled office guest room, okay. So you need 3 spaces. Garage will hold 1, and then you show 2 in the driveway.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay, well, that doesn't conform. You either need to
It's
change
in the
that
driveway,
plan,
no?
or you need to file an amended application asking for a variance, and then repost, re-advertise, and the whole
Road
works.
actually is.
You might want to think about putting those spaces somewhere else.
Yeah, she doesn't own this. She owns up to here.
Put them 10 feet from, at least 10 feet from the cul-de-sac, then that's something that the building inspector would be able to approve.
Weird lot.
It's a very unusual lot. With a lot of complications because of the circular nature of it.
Plus your survey, your old survey will show us the parking you have now and what the difference is.
You'll see.
Right.
Okay. Are there any other issues or questions I should know about, gentlemen?
We covered everything, Rick?
Well, we won't know until we have all the
From
information.
your current information, is there anything else you'd like provided, is what I'm asking.
On this map, it says Bluestone Driveway. I'm unclear as, is that your property?
Would you mind if I,
Come on over.
This part.
This is the property line, no?
so this is the cul-de-sac and this is the setback, is my understanding.
This is the setback, or this is the property line?
This is the property line.
Right, so you don't own this? It's part of this cul-de-sac?
It must be part of the, yes, sir.
Right.
Right.
Thank you.
That's why she needs the variance for the 10 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
The
one.
driveway is actually, goes into village property.
right, you have an issue with all
Right,
the...
and right now, our driveway's only 10 feet.
Anybody out in the audience like to heard of this application? So Rick, we'll just hold this open?
Yes, but she's got a lot of work to do,
There's a lot of work to do.
including deciding whether she wants to pursue a variance less than 10 feet from the street for parking spaces. And if she does, she's going to have to start over again. If you revise that plan and come up with I mean, it looks like there's plenty of places on the property to put parking more than 10 feet from the cul-de-sac. So it's something that you can easily remedy.
There's a lot of space between the house and the pool over in that part of the property.
But you need to evaluate all of this, and then we'll see what happens.
The problem is the property comes in even further, as you can see. Right, thank you.
Okay. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Brings us down to the last of the pending cases. Number 24 Pulaski Street. Case number 2835.
Good evening, for the applicant, John Bennett. Robert Fair is the principal of the LLC is here, as well as David Stewart, who's the project architect. It was not in my mind, but in some people's mind, there was some confusion about the posting of the mailing last month. We did post in the mail, but so as to just take that issue totally out of the matter, at the suggestion, at my suggestion, we just reposted the property. So I have an affidavit of posting and the mailing, and I have a photograph that was taken the day it was posted. And a photograph that was taken today of the, hopefully that issue is behind us again. I didn't see that there's an issue, but the better course, of course, was just to advertise, or repost, I should say. This is a request to demolish existing non-conforming single-family residence and shed and construct a new single-family residence and pool at 24 Pulaski Street. The house is rather, the lot is unusually shaped, but even with that unusual shape, the proposal, although it needs some pyramid help from the board, we will be reducing one fairly significant dimensional nonconformity of 3.4 feet to 10 feet from the abutting property. We do need 4,377 square feet of total cubic feet in cumulative pyramid relief, but again, that's a cumulative number, and I think we're going to be able to demonstrate to you pretty handily that when viewed separately, these requests for pyramid relief are not significant, particularly in light of the fact that we have we've tried to place the pyramid request for relief in the areas where they'll have the least effect on the neighbors, which is, I think, not only objectively we'll be able to show, but also, for example, the neighbor that probably would be the most affected by the pyramid relief has given us a letter of support. Let me hand up, and David is going to share with you, who's done a wonderful study, not only of light and shadow, but existing pyramid encroachments, potential pyramid relief, as of right construction, and the proposed pyramid encroachments. Has done a wonderful study. So let me hand up a copy of his report, and I'll have him come up and explain that, which he'll be able to do much more capable of explaining it than I would ever be. Again, so the proposed residence, which again, we need some pyramid relief, but the existing residence, if you took the existing pyramid encroachment and added the potential as of right pyramid encroachment, you'd have 3,134 cubic feet. Again, we're proposing 4,377. Let me talk to you a little bit about the way this lot was created, because I think it's important for you to realize. This lot was created back in 1976. Before I forget, the ridge height of the house is only 30 feet as opposed to 35 feet. The lot was created back in 1976 by relief that was granted by this board. Well, it was granted by this board, but I don't think any of you were on the board at that time.
No.
I thought maybe the chairman might have been on the board.
Here since
Mr. McMahon was
1985,
on the
not
board.
since 76.
So, and the lot, as you can see from the tax map, which I've highlighted the relevant section of the tax map, is a very, very unusual lot. But nevertheless, it was created as a result of some variances that were granted by the board back in '76, including a setback to 3.5 feet where 10 was required and 13 feet where 25 feet was required. So we're going to be able to do away with some of these nonconformities. But that's an important aspect for you to consider. In the way that it was created. But also, in 1976, I think it's important to remember in terms of the pyramid law. In 1976, there was no pyramid law in the village of Southampton. I'm talking about the question of self-created hardship as it relates to the lot. And then, so this predates the creation of the pyramid law in the village of Southampton. But not only that, it predates the flag lot sections, because this is a flag lot sections where, as you all know, in a regular lot, in a non-flag lot situation, you get the benefit of starting the 45-degree angle of the pyramid law from 5 feet up from grade. Now in a flag lot, you have to start the 45-degree pyramid angle from grade. Both that section and the pyramid law in general was neither one of those sections of law were in existence at the creation of this lot. So it's, again, a unusually shaped lot. One of the things that we're going to be able to demonstrate to you, hopefully, is that where we've pushed the request for pyramid relief is in an area that has the least effect on the neighbors. Let me hand you up, if I may, the letters of support from the neighbor to the east, as well as one of the neighbors to the north. So we have letters of support from both Gary Gillespie and Loretta Diamond. And those are the people, I think, who would be, as David will demonstrate to you, the most affected by these proposed pyramid encroachments. But
The Gillespies are the ones who created this law, right?
yeah,
Obviously, they'd be in favor of it.
well, maybe not necessarily. They don't own it any longer, so sometimes you'll all remember a rather contentious case, I would hope, where a client of mine purchased a lot from someone.
Did you handle it?
And that person came in and then objected and objected and objected on the ocean. Remember, a client of mine purchased a lot.
Had to do with a fence, I believe.
No, it was retaining walls.
Retaining walls,
Yeah. A month after the
And he had the
closing
same
for
thing.
$10 million, the client, the seller came in and spent a lot of money objecting to the application, which
But
ultimately
he
you guys
didn't
granted.
say too much after.
Excuse me?
I pointed out to him that he had the same thing. After that, he had nothing to say.
That did quiet him down.
Kind of cooled things off.
What a cool thing. I think I remember Mr. McMahon, rest his soul, throwing the survey at him.
Who?
Mr. McMahon, God rest his soul, I remember him throwing the survey at the objecting.
No, this was a lot recent, more recent.
Digger,
than that.
McMahon, Digger.
Oh, Digger. Oh, I thought you were talking about my father-in-law.
Oh, no.
Golly.
In any event, as David will show you, the bulk of the pyramid encroachments is in this north-south portion of the lot, and that is all. It doesn't line up at all with the lot to the east. It's well south of the lot to the east, so that'll have very little effect, if at all, on the lot to the east. David will talk to you about the sun study that he did. The house lines up with the swimming pool, for which, by the way, you granted a variance to this lot to the east some years ago, and also that neighbor, again, not that it's conclusive, but it's certainly probative that that neighbor has given you a letter of no opposition. The other area that will be affected is, as we said, the Gillespies, who have given us a letter of support. When I was putting together this application and trying to figure out what the best way it was to explain the pyramid requests, I kept on saying to myself, I wish I had a model, because it's hard to follow the requests and to see why the number might seem high from a cumulative point of view. It's really not that significant. So, Dave, where are you? Probably the best idea. If a picture speaks 1,000 words, a model speaks 1,000,000 words. So, David, why don't you take the board through the request for pyramid relief, certainly in a way that I couldn't do quite as well.
David Sherwood, 2 First Street, Sag Harbor. I'm the architect for the applicant. There's 3 sets of pyramid numbers that we should talk about. The first is the pre-existing non-conforming cubic footage of the existing house. And currently that totals 2,414 cubic feet of non-conformance that the existing house occupies. And in the packets that have been handed to you, there are elevation drawings of the existing house. And I think E2 is probably the best illustration of where that cubic footage comes in on the existing house. There's 2 major gable ends that both protrude, and so they cumulatively add up to about 2,414 cubic feet.
So you could say, if I want, even though it's the run that creates the.
Well, I'm not even on that house yet.
I know
I'm
you're
talking
not.
about the existing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll shut up. I said he could do it better.
Let me do it.
Sorry.
Now you just messed them up.
Okay. The second set of numbers that I would like to add to those pre-existing are the as of right. And the as of right cubic footage comes from the code section 11612E7, where we would be allowed to expand the pre-existing non-conforming house provided it met the zoning setbacks in such a way as long as the roof lines and the ridges weren't any higher. And if we were to do that, I have on E1, there's two sets of E1s. There's an E1 of the existing house, and then there's an E1 as of right. And you can see the green portion there is the as of right pyramid violation, and that shows up again on E3 and E4. By expanding the existing house, this is the south elevation, so on the rear there would be a portion of non-conforming pyramid. On the north, which would be the front side, there's a section, and if we look at the east elevation, we can see where those sections come in by taking the existing house and just sort of extruding it and creating some additional volume. The third number that I would like to bring in is the number of our total potential encroachment that we are requesting with this design. So if we took the pre-existing non-conforming of 2414 and we add to it the as of right, which is 720, we come up with about 3134, where we would not even be at this board if we were choosing to go that direction with the house design. But the house is in horrible shape. We haven't even talked about the existing house. I mean, it's literally rotting. So it really cannot be renovated. And it seemed that, it made more sense to demolish it and to, try to make a more conforming footprint with respect to zoning and try to come up with a volume that maybe used some of that pyramid that we had in the bank, so to speak. So our proposed house has an aggregate, as John mentioned, of 4,377 cubic feet. And that, actually now's probably the time to switch to the model. That comes from two areas primarily. On this side of the house, you can see, and this, the elevations of the model actually match the drawings that are in your packets, but you can see the pyramid line on the north side here, which is from the east property elevation, property line, and the same line on the south side. So we've got a swath of about 4 feet by the breadth of that roof slope, which is on the east side of that roof slope, which comprises the largest portion. That is 2,926 cubic feet, just on that one, by 4 feet by that area there. Because of the sort of puzzle shape of the lot, we have another small section here on the south side of the main piece of the house, but because of the jog in the property line, that portion doesn't extend all the way. It's only, for that distance, which is maybe 10 or 12 feet. So, and that...
So you're referring to, on the survey, it's unusual when I first looked at it, you usually have a pyramid encroachment and you're only on one side that you have to worry about because it's an unusual shaped lot. You see, this section here, this north-south section, has pyramid issues, albeit cumulatively one number. I think when you separate them, you'll see that they're not very significant. But you have to. I have a pyramid problem both from the east, which again was the letter of support, and it's going to be in the area of the pool, as well as from the west because of the unusual shaped portion of the shape of the lot, I should say, excuse me.
So the third area is just the back slope of this connector, again, because of the southern, part of the southern property line. As that goes up from grade, it skins that roof slope, and so there's some, what do we have there? 102 cubic feet here.
But remember, we're also, the existing setback in this house is about 3.7 feet.
Right.
So we're moving it back substantially.
And the last portion of pyramid that we'd be looking for is on the west side of about 1.5 feet following the roof slope there.
So I asked David when I first saw the model, what happens if you pull this back so that it conforms, and the effect is drastic. You essentially lose this.
Essentially, the second floor becomes non-habitable because right now we have I think a 4 or 5 foot knee wall, so everything it's sort of like in an unfinished cape, if you will, where you've got the 5 foot knee wall and then the sloping ceiling line. If that had to go down, then all of that comes down with it, and it basically disappears. But
you don't have a habitable second floor.
right, and so the interesting thing is, and when I started on the design of the house, we weren't aware of the pyramid or of the flag lot provision of the pyramid rule. And so the house was actually designed so that it met pyramid if it were taken from 5 feet up. And then we became aware of that requirement, and that was when we made the application.
See, the aerial sort of helps in terms of the impact on the other properties. This is that property to the east. The lot, this is the existing house, so the proposal extends the improved area out to the east, and then has a north-south section to it. But it's well behind the house to the east. It also, there's a minimal encroachment to the house to the north. Both of these people, what's wrong with me? People have given letters of support. There's a rather large lot to the southwest, right? It's now formerly Bogdan Mink. I don't know whether or not, I thought he had sold it, but that lot has merely the pool in the rear part of the lot. The house is shifted. I think it was the old Fleming house from many years ago. The house itself is shifted way towards the westerly portion of the property and holds a 40-foot setback. So there's little to no effect on that parcel to the southwest. And then on the southeast, if you can look at the tax map, the two parcels to the south, both the parcels to the south. Let me talk about the parcel to the southwest. It's a very unusual shape and has this long 70-foot sort of flagpole section that creates the boundary, the northerly boundary of that lot. It's little to no effect on that lot. It's tax lot 48, and then on tax lot 49, which again, if you look at the aerial as well as the tax map, that will be a significant away from the proposed residence, and not have put any of these improvements in outside of. Will not put any of the improvements in shadow. I thought it might be a good idea, David, to show the board.
Right,
because again, the whole purpose of the pyramid law is not to put surrounding homes in shadow.
Question I have now, you said the existing house that's on there is so many cubic feet of pre-existing that wouldn't conform today. And how much was that? How much?
2414.
And you're asking
and
for?
in addition to that, Mr. Guzzo, in addition to that, as you know, there's a grandfathering section that allows additional pyramid encroachments as long as you don't violate the height of the existing ridge. So the total of the existing and the proposed as of right, so to speak.
Right. That's 3134.
3134, and what you're asking for in this new is
4377. So it's a net difference of around 1,200 feet. It's not exactly
more than what you would have been able to if you put an addition on that other.
Correct.
Or, well, to use the existing house and then put an
Right.
addition on.
Okay.
But this makes, and of course, we wouldn't have been moving it back. and-
Right.
So we thought, all in all, and, it's a house that's designed, again, to try to push the pyramid encroachments to an area where they'll have the least effect on the neighbors. Again, the number sounds bigger than the net effect of all of it, because, and I think this is what tells the story more than anything. You have this cubic feet, when you have a run like this, it starts adding up on either side, but really you don't have any terrible effect on the neighbors in terms of just maybe take a look at the sun study.
Yeah, so on the sun study here, what we did is we combined the neighbor to the
No
east
windows, right?
and the subject property together on the same map. And in looking at the path of the sun throughout the day and throughout the year, as it rises here and sort of comes around and sets there, I figured the only house, when you look at the aerial photograph, that could possibly be impacted would be the neighbor to the east. And as we look at the sun as it reaches the southwestern sky, the pink here indicates what that shadow would be, and it doesn't even leave our property. So because of the slopes of the roof, everything is sort of designed in such a way to kind of keep the shadow on our property. So there's no negative impact on this neighbor.
Do you want to set backs?
The other thing, in terms of, I spoke a little bit about the property to the southwest, which is that large parcel. It's tax lot number 44. I do have a survey of that property, and you'll see that the house is probably 175 feet from the borderline. The pool is in the back. Even on a redevelopment of this property, which would be, I would think would be unusual, but even on a redevelopment in this property, they would have to maintain a rear yard of 60 feet, which is about where the pool is. So you don't have any potential that these requests for variance will put any of the improvements on that tax lot 44, I should say, in shade. And also, as it relates to tax lot 43, that is, there's a minimal, that's the property directly to the west, there's a minimal request for relief. What is the request, David, if I may, for relief to this property, Dorn property? I think we have a very small number.
It's 102 cubic feet.
102 cubic feet, all negligible.
And you're asking really for no setback relief.
No.
You have health department for this already?
You handed up, what is that?
Oh, that's tax lot, Rick, that's tax lot number 44. It's to the southwest. I just wanted to show that it's a large lot. And the house on that 270-foot-long parcel, the house is at a 40-foot setback from Elm Street. So again, it's far away, and even if the house were to be torn down, which I would be surprised, because the rear yard would still have to maintain 60 feet, which would be well out of the way of any effect from these encroachments. So I don't even know. It's hard to compare. I don't even know if the number even if the number sounds big, when you look at it, it may cumulatively sound big. I don't even know if that is a lot of encroachments, but certainly the way it's, if you look at all the requests for relief separately, particularly in the location of the lots where those requests for relief are, I don't really see any impact on the neighborhood properties. I don't think they would have been so quick to be supportive of the application if there was a true impact. I think it's also, you have this dilapidated house there. This is a great, testament to faith in the neighborhood, and nicely designed house. I don't see any impact on the neighborhood generally.
Now, you haven't said too much about the proposed pool.
Okay, I can talk about that.
As you know, we're reluctant to give setback relief for pools. In fact, you had one not too long ago where you asked for relief on two sides and didn't get it.
Oh, well, that was
Now
much,
you're asking for relief on 3 sides.
hold on.
Maybe you want to address the impact
Okay.
of the pool.
I will, I'll do that. First of all, the request, I did withdraw that application. That was
Well,
about
you saw it was
3
going
years ago.
nowhere. and you withdrew it. I wasn't going, even going to get to first base.
It was a significant request for relief, which is not the case in this matter. Let's talk about it. Maybe the aerial and the tax map is the best way to do that. I would be remiss not to remind you, we're asking for 16.5 on one side to the east, for example, and the board did grant relief for a pool on that lot to the east for 14.7 feet. I know the matter well because I handled the application.
How long ago was
When was
that?
that?
I
Excuse
remember
me?
that.
When was that?
Not that long ago. It was
Well,
2010.
Only
Here's a
4
copy
years.
of it. Excuse me?
It's only 4 years ago.
I have given you copies of pool decisions from years ago, which I understand that you have backed away from that. There were 8-foot pool variances, there were, variances down to 8 feet from the side yard, one down to 10 feet from the side yard. The 8-foot side yard variance that you granted, which I understand you backed away from that policy, is actually a variance that I wish you hadn't granted because it's a variance that is my neighbor to the south, so I can understand why you backed away from that policy. But
It's on the other foot, right?
excuse me, it's a different thing when it's on the other foot. But this, the property, adjoining property to the east, you gave a 14.7 variance. And again, that person has stated that they have no opposition to the request for relief. So
That
This
is a
one that
small-
you gave us is only one
that's one.
dimension. not
3.5 feet. It's not a lot. Then to the west, that's why I gave you the survey of the Bogdan Mink house. That's a very, very deep lot. The pool itself is 60 feet away. The house, what do you have? Generally, the reason you have the 20-foot pool setback is to keep the noise away from the house, not away from another pool. The house is about 170 feet away from the common boundary line. And similarly, the house on the Curcio lot is actually rather far away.
Is that the one that's toward the east?
Yeah, that's to the, Curcio is to the southeast. That's tax lot 49.
And they have a pool there.
And they have a pool. The pool is an extremely common accessory structure in the neighborhood.
That's the lot that has the narrow piece going back toward this?
No,
or
that's
the one
lot
next to it?
has, that's the lot.
That's
the
48,
lot to
right?
the west of that. That's
Yeah, Number 48.
And 48, again.
There's no
the
pool
boundary
on
line-
48?
Yeah, there's no pool, there's really no impact
There's
whatsoever.
a pool on
because
49.
There's a pool on 49, there's a pool on 39, there's a pool on 44. Well, here, look at the aerial. It's certainly a common accessory structure.
Yeah, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 at least.
And it's, what is it? It's
6.
there, it's not piggish at all. It's about 3.5 feet on either side. I don't know, particularly in light of the location of the existing structures and the houses on the existing lots.
They could make it smaller.
It's a larger pool than the one next door, and to
No,
the
it's not.
east.
It's about let me think, the one to the east is 16 by 32. This is,
17.3 by 33.
okay, well, listen, we could
It
certainly.
might help
talk
if they
about it.
narrowed it down to 15 by 30.
That's what we're gonna do.
Well, I said it might help. I didn't say it was going to go anywhere. I said it might help.
That's why I said, when you said it might help,
I said it might help.
I turned to my client and I said, that's what we're gonna do.
You're one step ahead of me,
I
John.
didn't, well, you didn't say that would seal the deal, you said it might help, so I figured I'd. Couldn't hurt, right?
Couldn't hurt. no?
Might not be a problem.
We can certainly make it a 50, what was the dimension?
15 by 30, I suggested.
15 by 30.
Is that 10 by 30?
No,
We can keep stepping this down, you're right, Rick.
please stop.
Be a bathtub.
Let one guy negotiate it down, please. We would certainly take a look at reducing the size of the pool. And I think as a matter of fact, that still is that's still a workable, 15 by 30 would still be a workable pool.
Yes,
And it would, of course, reduce the need for relief, and if you could consider the application amended to that, or I'll obviously give you a new survey for that. But I think that would take us down to a very minimal request for relief, and also less relief than the pool that was granted to the east.
And make sure that the 3 feet comes off the property line, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course. That was understood.
yeah, that would almost make you conform to the rear lot line.
Gets pretty close to the rear lot line. Yep, it does. It was 33? What's the size of the pool, David? I'm sorry. I can't diminish that.
17.3 by 33.
By 33, so that gets
From
us
the rear, you need
almost to the rear.
16.8,
It gets
so
us
that
about
would
a
give
foot
you
and a half from the.
19.8,
Gets us
yeah.
about a foot and a
What
half
they
from the
need.
rear. Yeah.
It would be
And
19.8.
I can't push it closer to the house. I asked David and said 10 feet is pretty much the minimum in
That's
terms
right.
of safety. That was the first thing I looked at, but, so, yeah, we could certainly do that.
It would help on the side, too.
Yeah, it helps all around. It
Bring them up to
minimizes-
18 on each side, really.
Yep. We'll do that.
Why was it 17.3 in the first place? That's a kind of odd number.
Sometimes the architect draws something on the plans and then the surveyor dimensions it differently.
I think it came from a round number for the setback relief.
I see.
Oh, I
At
see.
16.5, and that was just the remainder.
Yeah. Like watching sausage being
Anything
made.
else?
No, I don't think so. I think,
Does the board have anything else? Rick, you have anything?
No questions?
Anybody out in the audience like to refer to this application?
So,
We'll use the microphone so we can get you on the tape.
Michael White, 44 Pulaski Street. I think there's a couple things missing that weren't told in the story, because this property came on the market about 6 months ago, and I looked at it, and probably a dozen other people looked at it, and you know, they were told by the building department, which is rightly so, that this would be a real challenge, and the pool would probably be a zero to ever get a pool there, unless it was a 12-foot, you know, by 20-foot pool. So I went to my lawyer, and he said that, you know, the people, if I bought it, being an investor, he goes, you have no rights because, you know, you're an astute investor, and you created your own hardship. And, you know, I think that's something that should be taken into consideration, that these people knew what they were buying. And, you know, they shouldn't, this doesn't fit the neighborhood. There's nobody 10 feet from the property line in that neighborhood, and there's no pools that close. So, you know, I think it's a little, you know, I mean, if he gets all the relief he wants, I mean, why have a ZBA? I mean, there's so many houses that have been built recently where the pools are 15 by 20, 15 by 18. I did one myself in Bowden Square, and it was 15 by like 19 because we couldn't get a variance. So, you know, I don't think it's fair to even, you know, to come in here and act like you didn't know what you were buying when the building department's been like emphatic about this house. And, you know, there's nobody that wants this. You know, the Gillespie house is a rental. So what does he care who goes there? It's actually a weekly rental in the summer. So, and there's nobody here as a proponent. You know, letters are great, but nobody's here to verify that they even wrote them. So, you know, they're not admissible in this.
Well, we have to take that they are.
But you can't use those in a case. If you ever had a court case, if somebody files an Article 78, what are you going to do with those letters? They're no good.
What do they really mean?
They mean nothing.
They mean,
Right.
they don't mean nothing from the get-go.
Right. It's not true. It is true. It's, if you go to court, that's called hearsay. If you don't have somebody testifying to it, who knows who wrote those? You know, so, you know, it's just, I don't know, I think it's a little ridiculous to ask for such relief in, you know, this neighborhood.
Well, there already is a house there,
Right. I agree.
and this is a buildable lot, so there is going to be a house there.
There's one there now.
I know, so there will be a new house there. They're entitled to build a house.
They're entitled to
It's a buildable
build
lot.
what's there. Correct? I mean, that's in the code. I mean, I just did one, and we were allowed to use the existing box that was there without getting a variance. So they're entitled to it. They have a use, they have a right, and they created a hardship.
As far as the house goes, they're not asking for any relief for setbacks,
They are in the rear.
just for the pool.
No, for the house, they're extending it to a couple feet over. So
We're giving it back.
it doesn't.
They're
if
not
you-
asking for any setback
They're not
variance.
asking for any
But
setback
if,
relief.
but it shows on the map, they're extending the house over 4 feet, so that would also encroach in the rear,
I
wouldn't
have the
it?
advertisement right in front of me. They're not asking for any setback relief to the house.
On the survey, they are.
If it's on the survey, they would have to ask for it. They have to advertise for it. They haven't advertised for any relief. They're not asking for any relief for the home itself, except
They're
for the
asking you
pyramid
to
law.
approve this, they're asking you to approve the survey and the house.
The only setback relief they're asking is the pool.
But if you look at the map, they're extending past the house that's existing, right? They're extending it.
Why haven't they asked for it then?
I don't know. But if it's on the map, you would have to ask for it, wouldn't you?
They haven't asked for it.
Then,
Should they have asked for it?
Should they have asked for it is the question.
right.
The setback requirement from these internal lot lines for a lot of this size is 10 feet.
Actually, we're reducing one of the setbacks.
They're not coming any closer to any line, and the house is not coming closer to any line than 10 feet. It's actually being moved further from
Okay.
one
All right.
line. So they don't need any setback variances for the house. It's the pyramid law.
Mr. White, where do you live again?
44. That's
2 lots over.
2 houses over. And the other case of the house, which is next to me, where they got the relief, I mean, the guy that built that house, that was a mistake. I mean, he didn't know. He thought he could just put the pool anywhere. He thought he could be 15 foot off the line or whatever, so I don't think that's the same thing that's going on here. Thank you.
Okay?
There was one question I forgot to ask.
Oh, sorry.
You said something was said about letters of support. Have you given us letters of
Yeah,
support?
the 2
Yeah, we
letters
have
of
2.
support, and
Came in
there's
that
an
packet.
appellate division case that says,
I don't think I have any.
oh, I'll give you.
In fact, they're not here.
There's a case, there's a bunch of, I'm sorry.
There you
I
go, John,
apologize.
sorry.
Yeah, thank you. The letters of support from the neighbor to the east and the neighbor to the north.
Can you give me the tax map numbers?
Oh, sure. There is a letter of support.
This is an extra?
No, it's yours.
Okay.
Let me just say, so that there's no question about this whatsoever, there are a series of appellate division cases, and there's also a case, Coleman versus Corman, remember that name? Corman, the chairman of this board, that said that that's evidence of the lack of any impact on the character of the neighborhood. Loretta Diamond, I will tell you, affirm as an officer of the court, that I did speak to Ms. Diamond and asked her, she's the owner of 36 Pulaski Street, which is tax map number 39. I did ask her if she would be kind enough to send a letter of no objection, and she did not send, and she did send the letter. She had no objection. And I know my client did speak to the Gillespie's, who also gave a letter of support. I would not risk doing...
What's the tax lot number?
That is tax lot number 40.2.
Does anybody else out in the audience like to be heard?
My name is Connie Cornish, and I am the neighbor that apparently will not be impacted by any of this, based on what he's been talking about all night. I'm the neighbor to the south. My concern are sort of threefold. One is the elevation. With the new elevation, the rear master bedroom window will be significantly elevated above my property, overlooking into an outdoor shower, the swimming pool, and my property. He's repeatedly stated that the existing lot coverage is some 2,400 feet, where what they at least submitted to us as neighbors was 1,200. So I'm a little confused by that. And also that pre-existing pool approval that he's describing was given next door was done so only after many months, in fact, probably over a year, where he had installed the pool against what was previously approved, right on closer to a lot line, and it was absolutely done so only under duress because he refused to undo the damage he had done. So I think to use that as an example of something that was given is false entirely. I live next to that property. It has been an intrusion. It is a rental property. It has never sold. It is a very loud and boisterous area, and there's no question that the noise invasion is an intrusion. And I do live directly to that south property. And our house is indeed far away from the plot line, but I don't see that as a problem. I shouldn't be abused by that. It should be a benefit of the community that the houses are spacious and have a little distance from their neighbors. So my issue is not the setbacks, which I gather fall within, although they're quite remarkable. It is the elevation of this house. And when I went into the buildings department, they described the elevation as being much higher than 30 feet because they were going to raise the property line. And the windows in my house are only like 10 feet off the ground. To have something 30 feet above and big rear windows overlooking into my property seems not unlike putting in an outdoor patio or a porch on the second floor, which we generally don't do in this village. Having people be able to look straight over into your property is not something that's been traditionally condoned. And I see this property as being very much looking directly into my property from an elevation standpoint.
Where you look into the neighbor. I got one right next.
Well,
right next door to
this
me.
will be very much on top of us, yes, because of the
Any
narrow
place there are
setbacks.
smaller lots, you can obviously
It's
look
a
over
small
the fence.
lot, there's no question about that. Mine is not, but theirs is, I agree. So those are my three concerns. One, using that exception on this pool as an approval seems inappropriate. That was never meant to be and was only done much later, after the fact, when they pleaded the inability to unravel something that they had done. So those are just my three observations.
This is the pool that's to the east of you?
That's, well, the east of him,
Oh, the east of
the
him,
north
okay.
of me.
So it would be north of you.
Yeah. So those are my three observations. You can take them how you prefer, but I think to approve this without any editorial seems to me to be extraordinary. It's a flip property. There's nothing on Pulaski but properties that have been built with the intention of flipping them. Many of them haven't sold. They're all sitting there. And it just seems like not a great decision for the quality of a neighbor to have no neighbors who live in those houses. There are no full-time residents there. The previous neighbor was lovely. The previous house was fine. Is it run down? Sure. But it was never a problem. So I take issue with this need to go bigger and bigger and higher. I just don't really know that that's the solution to building a neighborhood in that area. It's right by the train station. It's right by the Polish Hall. It's right across the street from an area where nothing has sold for 2 or 3 years, literally on that street in that section. It's a little bit of a tough one to know that that's a great idea.
The height meets the code. In fact, it's less than the code.
5 feet less.
It's 5 feet less than what they could
But the
have.
pyramid law doesn't, correct? That's why we're
Pyramid
here?
law is why he's here.
So that's why we're here. That's all.
Pyramid law is
I'm a
exactly
neighbor,
why
and
he's
that's
here.
my comment.
Okay.
It seems by looking at the map that where these windows might be is some 71 feet away from the property line.
Okay.
65.
65. I have more than that, and then I don't know how far you are, but
Okay. Those are my three comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just one question, so I have the whole picture. Are you the owner of tax lot 44?
I don't know what my lot
Is
number
that yours?
is. No,
No.
I'm here.
49, right?
I have a
48 or
I
49.
have a question for the
I'm right
architect
by
here.
Okay.
The argument you made was the width of the house,
Let me just make a
and
note.
that's what creates the biggest amount of your pyramid request, which is facing the east side. And the house looks to me like it's, what, 28 feet
This
wide?
parcel here, tax lot
not
49.
sure.
Okay.
I mean, I got a 12 by 14 kitchen and a 14 by 15 living room.
Yeah, 28, yeah.
Yeah, so, the question is if you took a foot off or a foot and a half off that width of that house, wouldn't that greatly reduce the amount of pyramid requests that? No, I understand, I looked at the second floor plan, so the master bedroom is a rather large bedroom, 19 by 15. There's a small guest bedroom.
Well, we're under the FAR.
I'm just worried about because the house that's there already with an addition on it, you would be, your pre-existing 3,000 cubic feet of pyramid by you're allowed to have. Now you're asking for like 1,000 more square feet of pyramid relief than what's there now.
But then
So
we're not reducing the dimensional setbacks. We're moving, you have a 3.7 foot setback. The thought was to actually spread it out so that the net effect, if we did it as of right, arguably it would have a more dramatic effect on some of the neighbors.
Much more.
Much more. It's a really sensitive
well, I
design.
don't see that. Maybe you do.
Should we go up instead of, is that the
Go up
effect?
instead of breadth?
I think what they're asking you is there any way that you can revise the design of the proposed house so as to reduce the extent of pyramid law relief?
Well, what I'd like to look at for a second, if I may, is what you try to apply a rule of reason. Why do you have the law? And if the reason that you have the law is not being violated or negatively affected by the request for relief, that means that the benefit outweighs any detriment. So the last speaker, the house itself is about somewhere between 65 and 70 feet from her rear yard. I don't understand how at all the pyramid request for relief would
No,
impact on that at all.
the impact is the whole eastern property, not the
But
rear
there is
property.
There is no, first of all, the eastern property is supportive of the application. And again, the eastern properties, where we touch with the pyramid encroachment is in the backyard of the eastern property. We're near the pool. The entire northerly the northerly portion
I
of the
understand what
house
you're saying. I'm just
is
saying,
behind
you've got a
the
blank
rear.
piece of property. You're tearing the house down there, you're gonna start
No, it's not a
over.
blank piece of property, because what I have, I'm actually making it quite a bit better. It's not like
I
that
agree you
analogy.
are. So what I'm asking, is there a way that we can, you're asking for all this, so I'm asking the way, can this be designed where we can mitigate some of that pyramid relief that you're asking for?
Well, if we came in, as you said before, a foot, we
Okay.
wouldn't we would need to come in 4 feet or 5 feet because the house was designed to meet the 5 foot pyramid start.
Well, that's why I'm asking. Maybe by coming in a foot, if you're only losing
shave a
50
foot.
feet of
Right.
cubic
Exactly.
feet, but if you came in a foot and then all of a sudden 1,000 feet goes away, that's what I would like to know.
We couldn't lose 1,000 feet in 1 foot. We'd have to come in 3 feet because I think on that whole side we only have 2,000.
You have 2,400 or something like that.
2,900 on the east side. So if we came in a foot and we needed 5, let's say, that's only 1/5 of the 3,600 cubic feet that we're picking up, which isn't a large give back.
So if you came in a foot, you'd need 600 feet less.
Right.
That's fairly
But
significant.
the impact inside the house is that those knee walls that I spoke of, go down. Because essentially it's a cape that we're building.
Yeah, I
You know,
know.
we're
I
not
looked at
building
your
a full
floor plan,
two-story
it looks
house.
like you have the bed against that knee wall in the guest bedroom.
Right.
And if you flip it to the other side, it would be against an 8-foot wall, so it would have less of an impact, so.
Oh, we'll take a look at it, obviously. Okay, sure. That's a little bit.
I don't have any interest in reducing the size of the house or the footprint. I don't see that it's gonna make any difference.
Well, we'll take a look at it.
You have a speaker.
Judy Maisels, I live on Pelletreau. I have nothing to do, I'm not being affected by this, but I was walking the property today, and I'm just curious, why is anybody allowing anybody else to build a house there? Why aren't they waiting till the land in front becomes available and a normal house gets built? This is like such a weird piece of property. And whoever made the mistake of allowing the house to get built, God knows how many years ago, I don't know that it should be replicated again and make it bigger and more solid, because it's weird. It really just isn't meant to be.
It's a weird lot, that's for
It
sure.
isn't meant. It was never meant to have a house on it, I don't think, as a flag, you know. And if they can buy the house in front and build something normal, you know, or whatever, keeping with the area. But to perpetuate these kind of odd things in the village, we're destroying our village. You know, let's make attached housing.
Well, you're right, but the lot exists and.
But I'm just saying, I think
Somebody owns it.
it's time for the zoning people to think about what's going on as a whole in the village. And this is like a real good case of nothing should be built there without
We have to go by what the setback rules are.
No, I understand all that.
The house
I'm
meets the
just-
setback rules.
As I said, I know I have nothing, it's not gonna matter, but I just have to speak my mind. It just seems ridiculous to allow somebody to build another bigger house, so to perpetuate these odd shaped things.
True enough.
Anybody else in the audience wish to be heard?
The only thing that I want to address is, this is self-inflicted, and this isn't supposed to be a purview of this board. I mean, if you're an investor like they are, bought this, you know what you can do. You're not entitled to build more. You're not entitled to a variance. If this was somebody living there for 50 years and they wanted to do it, then maybe you would say yes, but I've never seen such a case before where in this village where there's been such a weird lot with such a large house on it. I mean, I've never seen it. I've looked at hundreds of lots and houses, and I've never seen such a thing. And if they're going to grant variances for pools, you know, I've got 10 of them to bring here because I've built a ton of pools that were too small and should have been given variances. And we were told over and over again, no more variances for pools.
Who told you that?
Every lawyer in town. And they say you will not grant them. And you guys won't
We have
grant them.
numerous lawyers here.
Well, and also the other thing, you know, John wants, Mr. Bennett wants to talk about, you know, court cases. They've filed Article 78s with people like this that have been investors, and the villages have lost over and over again because the court rules all the time that if you know the rules, that you shouldn't have bought it. You did it to yourself. And I've been told that by many lawyers.
We can't distinguish between an investor and someone that's gonna live there. They both have rights.
Absolutely,
So we
you
can't
can.
distinguish. You keep saying about investor, and we should treat them differently. We don't treat them differently.
Absolutely you can, because there's been
No,
a
we
case.
can't,
There was a
no.
case in East Quogue. The
Property
Supreme
owner
Court
is a property owner,
ruled
whether he's an
that,
investor or
that
gonna
someone
live there.
bought a piece of land and they wanted to build a house on it, and they only knew that it was underwater, and they threw it out. They said, you were an astute investor, and they threw it out of court. They said, you should have known. You can't buy something
He's an
thinking that you're...
astute buyer. He's an astute buyer. Astute investor doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't? Well, it's
No,
in,
an
it's...
investor or someone that's gonna live there, they have to be treated the same. You can't treat them differently.
Absolutely you can.
No, you
It's
can't.
been ruled over and over again.
Who's ruled it over and over
I'll
again?
bring it, I'll send the cases because
Fine,
it's been
fine.
ruled. Okay.
Do we have anybody else who wishes to be heard? And if you do, let's not hear what we've already heard over again. Therefore, Rick, we're gonna hold this open.
Yep.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, what are these people doing out there?
Thank you very much.
Good night, John. What the heck did I do with my,
Here, you got this one, we're on 2836
Dune Church,
Dune
right?
Church. Yeah.
What's the number?
2836.
We come down to the new cases, number 2836, the St. Andrew's Dune Church, 12 Gin Lane. For the applicant.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Anthony Tohill.
We haven't seen you for a long while.
I'm still
Long
here.
while.
Still here, even to my surprise, I'm still here. There are days when I wonder how it's happening. Today event, I'm here to represent Dune Church.
We're hoping that at some point you will give one of those seminars again.
I'm happy to do it. I'm actually doing one in Sagaponack within a month or so. So if you want, somebody make a phone call, and I'm happy to do it. I'm actually not that happy to do it. It's a lot of work, if you really want to know the truth. And the last time, which I did over here at the community center, I was not told until I arrived that that gentleman, not his fault, I had to stand at the microphone and not move 1 foot either direction, backwards or forwards. And so for 4 hours I stood. Some of you may remember that. That was difficult. But anyhow, it's a lot of fun, and I enjoy it, and I know that lots of people in the audience enjoy it.
He thinks he's directing a fancy film.
It's just, I didn't know beforehand, and it's comfortable to walk around a little bit when you're talking for 4 hours. Anyhow, I'm here tonight on behalf of the Dune Church. I'm hoping this application, given what I've watched so far this evening, will be a distinct change of pace and style. I'm accompanied by James Walker, a familiar face to all of you. From InterScience, Steve Lemansky, also a familiar face. He is the designer of the project that we're going to talk about. Professor Henry Bokinevich, a familiar name to you, from the School of Atmospheric and Marine Science at Stony Brook University, and Alan McFarland, who is a representative of the church, is here as well. None of the people that are here with me intend to speak unless you ask questions, and they're happy to answer any questions. This is an application under Village Code sections, or chapters rather, 49 and 116, which are respectively the Coastal Erosion Hazard Area local law and the Wetlands local law. Specifically, we intend to apply this evening for permission to install steel sheathing landward of the dune crest between the landwardmost part of the Barish existing, long-term existing wooden bulkhead on the west and the landwardmost part of the Bathing Corporation bulkhead, also long-term existing bulkhead on the east. And so we intend on a straight line basis to connect those two bulkheads. I wish to hand up at this time 25 photographs of the Dune Church property. This is the day after Hurricane Sandy. And so what I'm about to do is show to you how this application is the furthest thing in the world from an abstract or an academic application. This is the day after Sandy, and it shows the dune seaward of the Dune Church essentially completely gone. It also shows a portion of the Bathing Corporation next to my right hand. Then the balance of the photographs, I do not have copies of these, they were just given to me this evening, but I will have Jim Walker from InterScience drop off 6 additional copies tomorrow, so that there'll be a total of 7 in hand. The last of the photographs would be plus or minus 1,000 feet to the east of the Bathing Corporation and the Dune Church, and you'll see how there was huge erosion. Then as you come back toward the beginning, you see the Camuto property immediately to the east of the Bathing Corporation, and you see a stone wall as well as a bulkhead landward of that stone wall. Then when you come a little bit further west toward the Dune Church, you can see a line, that's the steel sheathing from the Bathing Corporation that was exposed as a result of Hurricane Sandy. Looks to be a couple of feet exposed, was buried since then. And so the point of this series of photographs is that if you start with the Dune Church on the west, and you go continually over those 25 photographs to the east, you will see the extent of the erosion after Sandy, but you will also see that all the other properties, excepting the Dune Church, have some form of erosion control there back to the 30s, as a matter of fact, and we know some of the dates, and I'll present them here this evening, but all the others have some form of a control available to them. Now, here is a series of photographs that will show you the existing conditions. And on this collection, I do have the copies. Now, one set of these shows as of October 20, 2014. You'll see all of these. As of October 20, 2014, this past week, here is a picture of the dune crest and the double row of fencing that was built last year. There's a brand new dune at the Dune Church, cost a huge amount of money, but it was built last year. Then the next drawing shows the same dune looking toward Barish on the west. Here is the same picture looking toward the Bathing Corporation on the west, on the east. Here is the same photograph showing the seaward face of the bluff, all planted with grass, and to a lesser extent, the seaward snow fencing. Here is a photograph showing the seaward snow fencing, so that there's 3 rows of snow fencing. Here is, and that's looking to the west. Here's the same photograph looking to the east, toward the Bathing Corporation. Here is an interesting photograph showing the peaks of the Dune Church from the beach looking due north, so that you can see the relationship between the beach, the dune, the new dune, as of 2013, and the church itself. Here is another photograph from out on the beach looking back toward the Barish property. And finally, here is another photograph looking to the east back toward the Bathing Corporation. So these are all labeled and can be supplemented to the other sets that I have handed out. You have in your packet Steve Lemansky's drawing, and I'd like to ask that you pull that out at this time so that I can describe exactly what's going on. It's this drawing. It's 2 pages. On the Steve Lemansky drawing, what you see on the bottom of the first page is an elevation drawing which shows the sheathing buried down to the top at elevation 14. Buried, and the reason I say buried, is that above that would be the top of the sand dune, another 8 feet of sand, and that would ascend to an elevation 22. You can see the church in the background. On that bottom drawing, you can also see the dead man on the landward side of the proposed sheathing. And of course, on the top drawing on the first page, you can see the location of the proposed sheathing. On the west, here is the Barish bulkhead that I mentioned earlier. The Barish bulkhead has been there since 1939. Here on the east is the Bathing Corporation landwardmost point of their timber bulkhead. That's been there since 5 years earlier. 1934. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, and I showed you in those photographs earlier, the Bathing Corporation has extensive sheathing already in place running from that point east toward Commuto and the property to the east. The sheathing is 30-foot piles, 6 foot on center, with 16-foot deep sheathing, which is each sheet 6 feet wide. Now, the intention here is that we have no reasonable alternative site. If you look at the code standards, the Coastal Erosion Hazard Act, I have to address alternative locations. Here is a copy of a Squires Holden survey. 7 copies. And when you get a chance to open it, you will see that it shows the location shows the location of the coastal erosion hazard line, which would be through, on a horizontal basis, east-west basis, the northerly-most third of the church itself. Then you see the historic crest of the dune. That's an important feature prepared by Squires and Holden on the basis of probably 100 years of collected topographical data assembled at their office. You see the top of the dune as of now, December 31, 2013. That's the brand new dune. And the intention is to locate this sheathing at a point immediately landward of the historic average crest of the dune. And so if you look to the west, you can see again the landwardmost part of the Barish bulkhead, the timber bulkhead. And then if you look to the east, you can see a little notation, bulkhead 5.6 feet east. That is the Bathing Corporation's bulkhead. And the intention is to connect the sheathing below the base, below the top of the bulkhead, as I've described, of the sand dune, as I've described to you, buried underneath. I should mention to you that the Dune Church actually did, at a time, have an actual bulkhead just the same as Barish and the Bathing Corporation. It was built right after the 1938 hurricane. It's still there today, but it's buried, and it's in deteriorated, useless, ineffective condition, but it is there. And it was, at a time, helpful in protecting the church. The code also requires that you consider whether or not reasonable mitigative measures have been taken. Connecting to the existing timber bulkheads is not then the creation of a whole new system. It's a connection to an existing system. And if you look at the first round of 25 post-Sandy photographs that I handed up, you'll see that the system is quite a bit larger than what's proposed on this property. As I mentioned to you earlier, those bulkheads, Barish was built in 1939, and the Bathing Corporation in 1934. I also mentioned earlier that last year the Dune Church, at a considerable expense, built the entire new sand dune that's depicted in the second round of photographs. We can't locate the sheathing in any other place. In particular, we can't locate it, as the code would otherwise suggest, at the waterward or seaward toe of the sand dune. If you were to ask Professor Boguniewicz to come up, he would tell you that would be the worst possible place to locate it. I should mention to you also that if and when there were a loss of, or erosion of sand as a result of a storm, something similar to what you saw in that photograph of the Bathing Corporation, the Dune Church would promptly replenish the sand. They have no interest in seeing that sheathing exposed. They wish it to be buried all the time, and so the plan would be to replenish it. The code also asks that there be consideration that any approval of this project would maintain the, quote, development, end of quote, on a reasonably safe condition. I'm not entirely sure what the word development means in that context in the Coastal Erosion Hazard Act, but I did read the entirety of that chapter. And it is, of course, it's not written locally. It was written by a commission actually on the St. Lawrence Seaway in 1981, and then adopted by the DEC. The word development probably means the church. And the church obviously would be made much more safe than it is today if this project were carried out, if it were approved by you. And as I mentioned to you, the church has been there as a life-saving station since 1851, and as St. Andrews by the Sea Church since 1879. I should also mention to you that you know that Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Irene, both breached and came into Lake Agawam. And it is the understanding of Professor Bokanevich that if this particular sheathing were installed, it would create a system measured by the Barish property on the west and then extending a considerable distance to the east, all of which are protected. And it would protect Lake Agawam from that breach, which is otherwise, where it is otherwise exposed. So we think that that's an additional benefit to the entire community. The location of the sheathing landward of the coastal erosion hazard line, given the Squires Holden survey that I've handed up, would make absolutely no sense. It would be landward of the church, and it would perform no reasonable function at all. Finally, I would mention to you that you did approve a rock revetment, a sloping rock revetment here on this property, 2002, and we have changed that. Our intention is to abide by the need to propose the minimum relief necessary, and we think that this is consistent with that code standard. And so, as I mentioned to you earlier, we're happy to answer any questions you have. I have the experts behind me, and that's otherwise our presentation.
Do you have any questions?
I noticed in the pictures, like from the by the beach club, the elevation that looks like what is the elevation? Is the top of the wall of the existing wall on each side? In other words, you have a retaining wall on the east and a retaining wall on the west.
Barish.
You're going to connect them.
Right.
The elevation of the retaining wall on the east and on the west, is it the same? Or?
I think Don King knows, but elevation about 7.2 feet.
And on the other side, it's over here. What is it there?
I'm not sure if we have that, Dan. They're similar in height. The Barish bulkhead has a second layer of sheathing behind it where they increase the height, and it has rocks behind it. If you've seen it back in 2002, you were here when we made those presentations. In the Barish situation, they have stones, large capstones behind the bulkhead to increase the height.
So what I'm saying is that this new metal bulkhead, you're going to match the height on the left and match the height on the right, and then it's just going to be a straight line, you know?
We're going to be a little bit higher. The Barish return ascends. It goes up into the dune. At the Bathing Corp, we will hit it at both the landward ends of the returns, and the Bathing Corporation may, in the future, increase the height of the seawall so it can do the rest of the job that you see in those photos from Sandy.
I mean, the built-up dune is like 23 feet high.
That's correct. And
But
this,
the bulkhead is, you know, like you said, 7 feet, or in the back corner, it looks like 5 feet. So you're actually going to be putting this below grade by 15 feet.
No. The elevation finished is 14 feet.
Is what?
14 feet. The elevation.
Oh, so the top of this retaining wall will be about 7 feet higher than like the bathing corporation.
In part, Dan. Over here, the bulkhead is higher, and he is here. He can attest to it if he feels it's necessary. Over here, the bulkhead is higher.
But it doesn't say on here how high that is there.
Well, we didn't survey it, but if you look at the photos, you'll see the bulkhead is higher here. In this section, it's not as high, and it got overtopped during Sandy. And the erosion went back further. In fact, it's pretty obvious to see in those photos exactly where it went. It overtopped the bulkhead here, same as it did in other locations where the bulkheads were lower. And the erosion goes behind the seawall. The seawall still does its job.
Okay.
It still protects the dune. It protected the bathing corporation. The bathing corporation had the bulk of the damage over here.
Where the water went over the top of the...
The bathing corporation sustained damage where the changing rooms, I believe that's what they...
Yeah, I saw the damage in the photographs, but so that water went over the top of the retaining wall.
It went over the top.
Yeah. Okay.
Those retaining walls are old and low.
Okay.
They're not old and low continuously. And many areas along this section of the beach have been increased in height in terms of the steel sheet piling. The water also went over Main Road and down into the new rain garden that we designed for Lake Ottawa. Both Tropical Storm Irene and Superstorm Sandy. The design here is identical to the sloping rock revetment. 14 feet is the design height. It's designed that high for a reason. And then you put the dune back together over top of it. It's 8 feet of dune over top, repairing the dune to look similar to what you have today.
Yeah, that's like 21 feet, and you're going to be at 14 feet, so you're still going to be
well
like,
over it.
well below.
Yes,
Right.
the sheathing is to be buried, not to be exposed.
We want the dune there too. There's a formula that FEMA promulgates which describes a dune.
Do you have to excavate that in order to put the pilings in?
Re-excavate and refill. Yeah.
Okay.
You excavate for the dead men. By and large, you drive the sheet piling straight down through.
Have any other questions? Vic, do you have any?
Just a couple of quick questions. Number one, have you started with any?
Say it again?
Have you started with any of the other agencies?
Yeah, we started with the DEC. They're not going to move unless there's a neg deck out of this board, and so we're stuck in place there. Eventually, we will have to address the role of the trustees.
Okay, so the DEC is waiting on zoning board to do
neg deck.
To do secret. Okay. What is your optimistic time frame, or whatever? What is your time frame for when
Sure, if I answer
you would like to be able to start this project?
If I answer that, the client will give you a completely different answer that on the calendar will be about 1/3 whatever I say. We're moving at the pace that we're moving at, meaning do the best of it.
Okay.
We're trying to, those pictures are frightening that I handed out before. We're trying to avoid that coming back.
Obviously, if the DEC is looking for us to do the secret, we'll need Corey's involvement.
Yeah, I think he's on vacation.
I know he's looked at the application. I don't know if you or your consultants have had any contact with him.
We tried to reach him, but I think he's on vacation, Jeff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we
the
did try to
zoning board
reach him.
never minds if an applicant's consultant communicates directly with Chick to get his input or whatever information he might need, rather than to delay things from month to month. So
We will renew our efforts and give him anything that he needs.
What are the, sorry, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what?
I thought you were continuing and I interrupted you.
Now, the other thing I remember that we granted something years ago. You said it was in 2002?
Yes.
I'll get you a copy.
4?
I think it would be helpful if you could provide
I'll do it.
copy of,
7 copies.
I doubt that I still have my
Okay, we'll,
file from that many years ago on this, so if you could provide us with copies of that decision.
we'll have 7 copies here tomorrow.
And also, if there was any, did we do a secret review in that connection, I assume?
Dave Emilita did.
Okay, and so that's probably, if you could provide that to us, it might be helpful.
These were the huge boulders that were going to be put in front that were going to
Yeah.
sink on their own.
Yeah.
And why wasn't that done?
Oh, we didn't continue.
Was
in-
that science proven to be
No,
true?
no. We didn't continue in the process.
Okay.
And we did run into obstacles at 116 Hampton Road. And we elected to back away, build a brand-new sand dune, and start all over again with a completely different project.
And I don't know if, let me ask, anyway, what are the probabilities of a negative effect with this treatment, either at the site or to the west?
Who wants to answer?
I'll answer that first. The idea is to put it out of the line of the erosion. There is a line of existing bulkhead that goes from here all the way to Little Plains Road. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. You probably have been down at the beach after storms. The idea when shoreline structures are built is you keep a straight line. We're behind the line, we're not forward of the line. We won't be causing scour, we won't be causing any problems related to being too far forward on the beach. And we're also proposing to put the dune back in good shape over top the connecting seawall. So in terms of coastal processes, we're doing the correct thing. If you want to know what happens at the end of a seawall in Watermill, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Watermill Beach Club. It's at the end of a old steel sheet piling seawall, and at the end of it, the seawall failed and fell over, and the water went through the Watermill Beach Club. What we're doing is we're connecting the two, and we're making it sound so that we don't end up being the Watermill Beach Club and the water takes a turn here and goes to Lake Ogden.
Why wouldn't there be a scour, a rebound scour?
Because we're away from the beach where the erosion would be active, and we're well behind it.
And the property to the east of, is it the Barish house you keep referring to?
West.
This is Barish.
Yeah.
It's west. This
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, to the west. Is it not true that that land to the west of the Barish goes way back? That is to say, has been eroded more?
Barish property did great during
No, to the west of
last
it.
two storms.
To the west of it.
I don't know what happens to the west of it. I've never,
I think I do, and there's quite some damage to the west of it.
to the west of Barish, there's one more house that has a complete
Okay,
seawall.
a little further then.
I don't know what goes on past there. I never really was asked.
Okay, so your answer is that there's no negative,
We're connecting
no
at-
probability of negative results here.
At the best spot that we could engineer a seawall at. And we're well behind the seaward extent of the existing seawalls. And we're going to put the dune back. And
Where that Beach Club seawall, where you're connecting, it's at like 5 feet, and you're gonna be at 14 feet at that point?
Don,
Like, can't that won't that, doesn't have a chance of scouring behind
hold on a
that?
second.
All right.
It's 11, that side is 11.4.
It's 11 feet there. Here.
Oh, I thought it said 5 feet on there. The top of the wall is 11?
It's 11 feet. The reason why that has been researched by the Bathing Corporation is they were part and parcel to some of this. We went to the Bathing Corporation right after the storm, and obviously we went to the church right after the storm, started planning and doing restoration. Some of the sand from here is there. It's always been a cooperative property line in terms of how to protect the properties.
All right, so there's not a big height difference between,
There's not a big height difference, but again, the 14 feet design is a particular reason. The reason why it's 14 feet, same as the rock revetment is 14 feet. We're trying to protect to a certain level for a certain storm. Then you put the dune back, and what does the dune do? Well, the dune erodes during a certain storm, and the FEMA organization has a certain profile that they like to see. It's called the 540 rule. With the dune in front of it, you have the ability to absorb a lot of the storm energy with the dune, even though you lose sand during a particular storm event. Those are the overriding concerns with a project like this.
And if you don't put it in, it's gonna act as a funnel right into downtown Southampton.
It probably has before.
yeah.
The water already overtops Main Beach and washes sand down into my rain garden and at Lake Ottawa, and makes it hard to grow plants in there.
Is there anyone in the audience like to have heard of this application?
Donald King. I'm here on behalf of the Bathing Corporation. We just want to let you know that we fully support this project. We've been working with the Dune Church, probably back to meetings I remember with Peter Corliss back in the late 1990s, trying to get this to fruition. It's the only area on the beach that I'm aware of, and I spend a lot of time on that beach between Wyandanch and Old Town all the way to Cooper's. It's the only area that I know that is not hardened, and it's a good protection for the village. It's good for the surrounding properties. So we really support the endeavors of the Dune Church on this.
Thank you. What's your pleasure?
We're going to have to adjourn it for all purposes because we can't really do anything until the secret process is worked on, and we're going to need Chick's input on that. Again, I've invited them to have their experts submit materials to Chick, including maybe written assessments or whatever he might want.
We will start contacting Chick again on Monday. Tomorrow we will deliver 7 copies of the Hurricane Sandy collection of 25 photographs and 7 copies of the prior decision, whatever date it was.
Will we adjourn for all purposes then?
Yeah.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Down to go. We got 2 people left.
Bill, that's for the paper.
Expanding.
On the matter of application 2837, Southampton Town Newspapers, Inc., 135 Windmill Lane.
Should be for the applicant Gilbert G. Flanagan, 21 South Main Street, Southampton. Also, I have John Rose, the architect for the project, who is here to answer any questions, give any additional information. I have an affidavit posting and an affidavit of mailing.
Just before you start, we do have one correspondence from the library, and they fully support.
Yes, I'm aware of that, thank you. And I'm sure it wasn't fraudulently submitted. But I'll leave that. It wasn't fraudulently submitted, I'm sure that's, sorry, have to get a laugh. Have to get a laugh occasionally. As indicated, this is an application for really 2 sets of relief to permit the construction of an additional building on the Southampton Press property, namely a 2,600 square foot, 1-story additional office building which would service some of the press's functions. It would be a 1-story building having a maximum height of 22 feet, which is considerably below what would be permitted. The specific setback relief we're requesting is a side yard variance to 10 feet from the easterly property line of this dog-leg-shaped lot. Request from the required 30 feet to 10 feet And that, of course, is the property line that abuts the library, and as you just have heard, there's a letter of support from the library. It's also a request for permission to provide 7 additional off-street parking spaces in front of the existing press building, and in fact at the required 35-foot front yard setback. The reason I'm asking for relief in that area is that there was an earlier decision of this board in connection with the development of this property and 2 other lots in a subdivision, which limited the location of parking to the parking in front of where the press building is now. But as I'm sure you're aware, that was I think in the late 1980s. A number of things have changed since then. As you know, the off-street parking requirements have changed, and the development of the surrounding properties, and in fact the adjoining properties, has changed. And I'll digress from my normal presentation here and give you a photograph which I think will show a number of things. This photograph is an aerial photograph showing the press building, and it's actually been enhanced to show the proposed additional parking spaces. And if you compare that with the photograph I submitted with the application, you'll see here's the area of the additional parking. It's only slightly further to the south and east than the existing pavement that's there now. But perhaps what's more telling is if you look immediately to the north of Press, as you know, that's where the police station now is, which wasn't there when the original approval was given. The police station has parking that extends virtually on a line with where we're proposing. And then you move over to Lola Prentice Park, and you can see all the parking that's much closer to the street. I think the idea was to preserve a certain buffer between these buildings and Windmill Lane, which of course would still be maintained. And furthermore, if you look to the south, you'll see that the Rogers Memorial Library added considerable additional parking, which is pretty much on the line with the parking, the additional spaces we're proposing. So I would think that to grant the application would be consistent with how things have in fact developed and would not have a negative impact on the character of the neighborhood. I did have a conversation yesterday with Bill Hattrick, who, as you may know, is the president of the Cooper Hill Townhouses Homeowners Association. Bill is not here, but the only real concern he voiced to me was that, and by the way, he told me frankly that he hadn't spoken with every person who lived in the Cooper Hill Townhouses, but the one question or concern he had was the color and the brightness of the proposed building. And I hastened to assure him, and I'll put on the record, that we're not going to paint the building white. It's not going to be flashy. It's going to be either a weathered shingle or brick or some dark color, including the roof. And so I had told him that I would make that statement on the record, and I've confirmed it with my client, who said, my God, I wouldn't do anything else. So I think that was the only concern that the Cooper Hill Townhouse people had with the application. Now, as I mentioned in my submission, a number of years ago, this board granted a variance, which is still valid. In fact, I got it was in 1987, to put an addition on the west side of the existing press building. And that was a 2,700 square foot addition that would have had a setback of only about 14 feet from the westerly property line. And that variance is still a valid variance. I don't know that I submitted copies of that decision, but I'll be happy to pass those up. The only conditions in that decision were that we obtain site plan approval and that we provide the required parking. And of course the parking was done. In fact, at that time, interestingly enough, the little dog leg that is now part of the press property was not owned by the press, and they had an easement to park there. But since then, the press has actually acquired fee title ownership to that pursuant to a land transfer. So that variance is still in force and effect. It hasn't been changed. We did even obtain site plan approval from the planning board for that addition, but the addition was never built, and you'll probably say, why are you here if you got permission to build something already? Well, I asked my client that, and the answer was that from a working environment standpoint, for one thing, extending that building further to the west would have blocked out all the light that really benefits the back end of that building, and also wouldn't have provided really the services that they need. And as you can imagine, since 1987, the technology in the newspaper and other business has changed. A couple of other things I want to mention, which I think are pointed out in the application, are that the proposed building we're talking about here is actually 100 square feet smaller than the building that was approved by this board. And in addition to that, we're getting rid of an existing garage of a square footage of 400 square feet. So we actually have building 500 square feet less than we had approved. And by the way, the setback of the new building from the westerly property line on the Cooper Hill townhouses is now a conforming setback. We've basically doubled that. And so I know that Mr. Hattrick expressed some pleasure about that. And furthermore, which is even better, where our addition originally was approved, lined up directly with the units that are the residential units for the Cooper Hill townhouses, but by building the building further to the south, it's more adjacent to their parking and their garage area. So there are a number of positive benefits that we've actually given to that neighbor. I don't know that I have to say too much more about it. I think that pretty well summarized that between that and all the stuff I submitted with the application. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
So you meet the parking requirements?
We meet, yeah. If you give us the relief to put the 7 spaces in the front where I showed, we won't need a parking variance. Right.
I find it interesting that you mentioned the color of the building and what it should be to meld into the community, because we had an architect here last month or two about the home, the one on the pond next to the cultural center, and he said, in accord with the community, we're making it spanking bright white. So I said, what? Where did he get that from?
No comment.
Is that a color, spanking white?
Well,
that must be a term of art.
Spanking pink, would you like?
That must be a term of art. No, this is designed to blend in. It'll either be shingle, brick, or something that's dark.
There's nothing going on.
Just an aside. It was just an aside.
I know, it was a good aside, too. It was a good aside. Could be a front or a rear, too. That's all I have to say, unless you have any questions of me or Mr. Rose.
Do we have any questions? No. Rick?
Just one question. You gave us decision number 1008 that you're asking for relief from with respect to where you want to put the parking spaces?
Yes, correct.
I'm looking at the,
Excuse me.
I've only looked at it quickly, but I'm looking at the map that's next to the decision you gave
Right.
us, and I don't see any parcel that resembles the shape of this parcel.
Well, that's what I say. What happened was, after that was done, we went to the planning board and actually did a lot line modification that added this piece. We took a piece from this lot and added it to the crest.
Oh, okay.
And that was something that the village approved a number of years ago.
Would you happen to have it?
Probably do.
Would you happen to have a copy of that?
I'm sure I do, actually.
Or you can give it to me, it doesn't have to be right now. Just when we get to writing up a decision, I want to try to figure out how this relates to this.
No, I can, that's why I went out to my car to get this.
Give them a variance to move the building back.
Well, that was approved in the early 90s, but I'll be happy to get you a copy of that. It got all the necessary approval.
I just want to see the lot line modification map or a copy of it, or what. We don't need to take the time right now.
Okay, I'll get it for you.
You can just provide me with a copy.
Sure.
There's no date page on the 1008 decision either.
It was in the late 80s or early 90s.
Yes, sir. It's November 17th,
Where do you see that?
1987. Are we talking about the same thing?
No,
No.
that's
Oh, I'm
the,
talking about something different, sorry.
Talking about the Windmill Lane Realty decision that was filed with the application.
right, that was a little bit in the lane. The stuff is so faded that
The survey's at 83.
this is when the property was originally subdivided into 3 lots. And I will get you the data on the land transfer, which I know was done because I did it.
Okay, I have no more questions.
Is there anyone out in the audience who'd like to be heard of this application? I guess not. So,
As far as
Hold
I'm
it for
concerned, we
decision?
can adjourn it for decision.
okay,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Again, I don't know if it will actually happen, it's a short time.
I understand that, you mentioned that.
Well, they all, a lot of them did.
This meeting of the ZBA of the Village of Southampton is adjourned.
On the online ad.